Marissa Clay had always been the kind of woman who made checklists for everything: meals, workouts, weekend plans, even Netflix shows. But lately, she couldn't even get out of bed without fighting through a fog so thick it felt like she was swimming through her own life. She blamed the pandemic at first. Then her job marketing for a mid-sized tech firm in Chicago. Long hours, little sunlight, and the endless glow of a screen. She figured she was just burnt out. Who wasn't? But when she started crying at stoplights and falling asleep during Zoom calls, her best friend, Trina, insisted she see a doctor. "You're not lazy," Trina said. "Something is off. This isn't you." At her primary care appointment, Dr. Sampson tilted his head when Marissa described her symptoms: fatigue, brain fog, low mood, body aches, and lately, a dull ache in her lower back. "We'll run some labs," he said. "Could be anemia, thyroid, depression, or even just the winter blues." Marissa nodded, relieved someone was finally listening. A week later, she got a message on her health portal. Her blood work had flagged something unexpected: severe vitamin D deficiency. 25 OHD level, 9 nanograms per milliliter. Normal range, 30 to 100 nanograms per milliliter. She stared at the number, confused. Wasn't vitamin D something people got from milk and the sun? How could she, a healthy 34-year-old who jogged and ate organic, be deficient? Dr. Sampson called her personally. "Your levels are really low," he said. "Below 10 is concerning. This could explain your symptoms. We'll need to supplement, high dose for now." "But how?" she asked. "I take a multivitamin. I try to eat well." "Vitamin D deficiency is more common than people think," he replied. "Especially in northern cities. Cloudy climates. Sedentary office work. Sunscreen. Modern life doesn't exactly set us up to absorb much sun." The words lingered in her mind for days. Modern life. She couldn't stop thinking about it. What if this wasn't just about her? 2 months later, a spark returned to Marissa. With her high-dose vitamin D supplements and lifestyle tweaks, more walks, sitting by the window, a sunrise lamp, she started feeling like herself again. The brain fog cleared. Her mood lifted. Her bones didn't ache when she stood up. She even got promoted, but instead of forgetting the experience, Marissa got curious. Obsessively curious. She started reading medical journals, following functional medicine podcasts, even joined Reddit threads about the silent epidemic of vitamin D deficiency. One phrase kept popping up. "We're not sick. We're sun-starved." It hit her like a ton of bricks. America, the land of convenience and climate control, might be creating an army of people who felt half awake, half functioning, and had no idea why. By the time summer came, she was emailing health reporters and pitching her story to wellness blogs. Her inbox was flooded. Mothers, athletes, elderly people, even college students wrote in with the same tale. Unexplained fatigue, low moods, bone pain, endless blood work, and finally, a vitamin D test that changed everything. She started filming short videos from her apartment, sharing her journey and interviewing experts. Her first video, "I wasn't depressed, I was deficient," went viral on TikTok. Within 6 months, she had a full-blown podcast. And then came the day her inbox changed her life. It was from an anonymous nurse in rural West Virginia. Subject line: "People are getting misdiagnosed. And I think it's on purpose." Marissa read the email 3 times before it sank in. The sender had used a burner address. No name. Just a few lines of text that felt like they came from the script of a medical thriller. "You're onto something. But this goes deeper than you think. In my clinic, we're told not to test for vitamin D unless someone is elderly or has osteoporosis. Patients with chronic fatigue, anxiety, even pain disorders, they get put on antidepressants or pain meds. Never tested for D. Why? Because correcting a deficiency doesn't make anyone money. Don't use my name. But keep going. You're rattling the right cages." Marissa's fingers hovered over her keyboard. She wanted to respond, to beg for more. But the address was already dead. Bounce back. Gone. Her mind spun. Could this really be systemic? She knew the American healthcare system had flaws, but suppressing a simple blood test? That sounded like something out of a conspiracy podcast. Still, the pieces fit. She started digging. According to the National Institutes of Health, over 40% of American adults were considered vitamin D insufficient. And nearly 80% of Black Americans had low levels, largely due to melanin's natural UV protection reducing D synthesis. Marissa couldn't ignore it. Entire populations were walking around sick, tired, and medicated when they might just be sun-deprived. She began interviewing doctors who had left traditional medicine. One of them, Dr. Raj Patel, was a former internist who now ran a holistic clinic in Arizona. Medical school barely covers nutrition, let alone micronutrients, he said during their interview. We were trained to treat symptoms, not root causes. Fatigue? Antidepressants. Bone pain? Send M to ortho. Anxiety? Benzos. Almost no one checks vitamin D even though it affects everything: immunity, inflammation, hormones, even mental health. But why wouldn't they test for it? Marissa asked, her voice rising. Because vitamin D deficiency isn't billable, he said bluntly. You can't patent the sun. That line stuck in Marissa's head for days. You can't patent the sun.as. Her podcast gained traction. Marissa noticed something else. She was starting to make enemies. One of her episodes, Why Your Doctor Won't Test Your Vitamin D, was flagged for medical misinformation on YouTube and removed within hours. An article she published on Medium was suddenly marked with a warning banner. Her ad revenue took a hit. A popular health influencer she had interviewed ghosted her. Then her own physician, Dr. Sampson, called her with a concerned tone. I saw your videos, he said. Look, I think your heart's in the right place. But be careful. The system doesn't like people asking too many questions. I'm just telling the truth, she replied. Yes, but even the truth has a price. That night, she didn't sleep. Not because she was scared, but because she was certain now. Something was wrong. How had a nutrient so essential, literally created by sunlight, become a forgotten variable in human health? Why were more people depressed than ever, anxious, fatigued, and physically falling apart, yet almost no one was talking about a vitamin that could be measured with a $50 test? And what if the fog she'd lived in for years was the same fog millions were stuck in right now? The next morning, she decided to take the investigation further. No more YouTube blurbs or light podcasts. She was going to do a full-length expose. A documentary. She posted a call-out on her platforms. Have you been diagnosed with anxiety, fatigue, chronic pain, or depression only to later discover it was vitamin D deficiency? I want to hear your story. Within 48 hours, she had over 3,000 emails. One caught her eye immediately. A mother in Texas whose son was nearly institutionalized before a naturopath discovered his vitamin D level was 6 nanograms per milliliter. He was 14. His name was Caleb, and according to his mother, Lisa McKnight, he had changed overnight. He was the brightest, happiest kid, she said during a Zoom call with Marissa. A little shy, sure, but never like this. By this, she meant a boy who stopped laughing, stopped eating, and spent hours staring blankly at walls. Caleb had always been a little bookish, but suddenly he was withdrawing from everything. His teachers said he wouldn't make eye contact. He barely spoke. At first, they thought it was social anxiety. Then depression. Then maybe even early-onset schizophrenia. A psychiatrist recommended medication. 2 kinds. But Lisa couldn't shake the feeling that something else was wrong. He said it wasn't sadness, she told Marissa. He said it felt like his body was too heavy. Like even his thoughts were tired. That's when she started researching. One night, at 3 a.m., after falling down a rabbit hole of medical blogs and functional medicine sites, she read an article titled, Could It Be Vitamin D Deficiency? She marched Caleb into a different clinic the next day. A more integrative one outside their insurance network. She paid $180 out of pocket just to run extra labs. The result, Caleb's vitamin D level was 6 nanograms per milliliter. Beyond deficient. It was nearly non-existent. Within weeks of high-dose supplementation, the light came back in her son's eyes. He started humming again. Eating. Talking about his favorite video games, Lisa said, wiping tears. I cried the first time I heard him laugh again. I thought I'd lost him. Marissa was stunned. This wasn't just about adults glued to their desks in gray cities. It was about kids. Growing up indoors, smothered in sunscreen, living off processed food and iPads. And no one was checking. She started asking questions even mainstream reporters were too hesitant to explore. Why weren't pediatricians screening for vitamin D regularly? Why was it treated like an afterthought instead of a cornerstone of health? And who stood to gain from a sick, sluggish, medicated population? Marissa's inbox became a library of pain. A 26-year-old Army veteran who was told his chronic pain was PTSD until he was found severely vitamin D deficient. A 48-year-old woman who'd spent a decade on antidepressants only to discover her levels were in the single digits. An elderly black man misdiagnosed with early dementia. It was, again, vitamin D. She heard from nurses, nutritionists, even a few whistleblower pharmacists. The pattern was everywhere. People were being misdiagnosed, misled, and medicated when some of them just needed the sun. And the most disturbing part? No one seemed to want to fix it. One night, she sat cross-legged on her living room floor, surrounded by sticky notes, medical papers, and screenshots of lab reports. Her walls looked like the set of a detective show. That's when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. No caller ID. She hesitated but answered. Marissa Clay? A voice asked. Male? Calm. Yes. I don't have much time. I work in a diagnostics lab affiliated with one of the top HMOs in the country. She sat up straighter. Okay. There's quiet pressure not to run certain tests. Vitamin D is one of them. If someone's not elderly, pregnant, or visibly malnourished, we're told not to offer it unless requested. And most patients don't even know to ask. But why? She whispered. Because chronic conditions are profitable. Deficiencies aren't. Click. Marissa sat frozen. Her phone screen faded to black. This was bigger than a vitamin. This was a health cover-up, one hiding in plain sight. And she was going to blow it wide open. By the time autumn rolled around, Marissa had interviews lined up with former healthcare insiders, lab technicians, and holistic practitioners from all over the country. Her podcast numbers had tripled, and her story was being shared on forums like Reddit's r/conspiracy r/health and even LinkedIn by frustrated doctors trying to change the system from within. But with visibility came backlash. Her YouTube account was temporarily demonetized due to repeated medical content violations. Instagram shadow banned her hashtag #deficiency awareness. A high-profile medical blogger called her a wellness grifter promoting pseudoscience. It stung. But what stung more were the emails from people who hadn't caught their deficiency in time. One was from a woman in Oregon named Deborah, 62. She'd had years of mysterious pain and instability. She was told it was fibromyalgia, early arthritis, even MS. Only after a fall that fractured her hip did anyone check her vitamin D. It was 5 nanograms per milliliter. Doctors had missed it for nearly a decade. By the time they corrected it, the damage was done. Deborah's bones were riddled with microfractures. She now walked with a cane and lived in chronic pain. I wasn't broken, she wrote. I was ignored. That sentence haunted Marissa. It was the same story over and over: fatigue, pain, confusion, fear, and a healthcare system that either didn't test, didn't care, or worse, didn't want to treat something cheap. Then came the conference. A nonprofit organization called Global Wellness Frontiers invited Marissa to speak on a panel in Washington, D.C. The topic was hidden deficiencies in modern health. It was her first time presenting her work in person, and she was nervous but ready. She flew out with her notes, research, and a newly edited teaser for the documentary she'd been working on. As she sat on the panel next to 2 doctors and a dietitian, she realized just how far she'd come. My question is simple, she said, her voice clear in the auditorium. How can something that affects over 40% of our population be labeled rare in clinical practice? The audience was silent. She continued, I'm not anti-doctor. I'm pro-information. And I'm asking, why are we normalizing feeling unwell? Why are people spending years on pills and therapy when a $50 blood test could start the real conversation? A few clapped. Then more. After the panel, a doctor in his 60s approached her in private. You know they'll come after you, he said. Big pharma. Lobbyists. Even your licensing board, if you had one. You're messing with a multi-billion-dollar status quo. I'm not afraid, Marissa said, though her voice betrayed a flicker of doubt. Good, he replied. Because we need more people like you. But he was right. The pushback got worse. Anonymous emails told her to stick to yoga and stop playing doctor. A popular health magazine retracted an article that had featured her quotes. Even a few former followers called her alarmist, a fearmonger. Marissa didn't waver. She doubled down. She started a vitamin D awareness nonprofit, Let the Light In, providing free test vouchers for low-income families. She rolled out a 3-part docuseries online. And with every story, every voice, every lab result that landed in her inbox, her purpose deepened. Then, one morning, a letter arrived in the mail. No return address. Just a single sheet of paper inside. A printed photo of her speaking at the DC conference. Across the bottom, scribbled in red ink. You're getting too close. Marissa stared at it, heart pounding. And then she smiled. Because she knew what it meant. They were scared. And the truth? It was already out. 3 months after receiving the anonymous threat, Marissa stood in front of a packed theater in Austin, Texas, for the premiere of her documentary, The D Deficiency, America's Silent Epidemic. The film was raw, emotional, and unflinching. It followed real people, kids, veterans, mothers, teachers, each of them misdiagnosed, mistreated, or ignored until a simple blood test changed everything. In the final scene, the camera lingered on Marissa sitting in a sunbeam by her window talking about the fog she once lived in. "I didn't need a pill," she said. "I needed the sun." As the credits rolled, the crowd was silent. And then applause. Loud, long. People stood up. Some cried. Later, in the lobby, a young woman approached her. Early 20s. Pale, with dark circles under her eyes. She gripped Marissa's hand. "I thought I was going crazy," she said. "Then I saw your video. Asked for the test. My level was 7. Just like yours. I started supplements 2 weeks ago. I already feel clearer." Marissa hugged her tightly. That made 124 people she'd met face-to-face whose lives had changed because of awareness. That was just scratching the surface. 2 weeks after the premiere, the documentary was picked up by a streaming platform under the health and wellness category. Overnight, it shot into the top 10. It sparked debates on morning shows, was dissected in Reddit threads, and even mentioned by a senator pushing for broader nutrition education in public schools. The phrase "test your D" began trending on social media. But it wasn't just online buzz. Clinics across the country began receiving requests from patients to include vitamin D testing in routine blood work. Some doctors were resistant at first. Others embraced it. Then a ripple effect began. A school district in Minnesota launched a pilot wellness program offering vitamin D testing to students with chronic fatigue or behavioral issues. A major insurance provider announced it would no longer classify vitamin D testing as unnecessary in their billing system. And perhaps most unexpectedly, the American Medical Association quietly updated its clinical guidelines, urging practitioners to consider broader screening for vitamin D in patients with nonspecific chronic symptoms. No press release. No fanfare. But the shift was beginning. Back in Chicago, Marissa found herself walking along the lakefront trail on a rare sunny afternoon in October. She paused by the water, letting the light hit her skin. She'd become known online as the Sunshine Girl, a nickname she laughed at even if she secretly loved it. The truth was, she wasn't a scientist. She wasn't a doctor. She wasn't even trained in health or journalism. She was just a woman who got tired of being tired. A woman who refused to accept "you're just stressed" as an answer. A woman who asked one small question and uncovered something massive. And now? She had a mission. To make sure no one else got lost in the fog. Epilogue.